G'day, g'day. How you going? What do you know? They'll strike a light. G'day, g'day. And how you going? Just say g'day, 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 and you'll be right.
Now we come to the portion of our service before we do our Bible study that we address some end times news and trends that are happening as it relates to Bible prophecy. In today's update, there is a focus on Iran with its threats, with its rhetoric, and there's quite a few reports that are dealing with this. For example, out of the Times of Israel, Iran threatens to annihilate Israel as Hezbollah boasts of reaching of rockets. And so the head of the Iranian army on Saturday said that Iranian forces are working to annihilate Israel and predict that they would achieve the success within 25 years. The threat of the commander of Iran's army came in the midst of almost daily warnings of conflict from Tehran and Jerusalem, highlighted by the alleged Israeli strike on the Iranian base in Syria earlier in the month. When the arrogant powers, they said, create a sanctuary for the Zionist regime, because this is what they call Israel, Zionists, the continued survival, we shouldn't allow one day to be added to the ominous and illegitimate life of this regime, this general said. The army, as he goes on to say, will move hand in hand with the Iranian forces so that the arrogant system would collapse and the Zionist regime would be annihilated. He's referring to the Revolutionary Guards. He also predicted this would take place within 25 years, a number frequently used by the Iranian leadership. Speaking hours later, Hezbollah chief Hassan Nasrallah warned that the Lebanese terror group rockets could hit all of Israel. And so the forces of the resistance today have the ability and the power and the missiles to hit any target within Israel, he said. Hezbollah is one of the Iran main proxies in fight with Israel, along with Hamas. And on Friday, the vice commander of Iran's Revolutionary Guard warned Israel with its bases are within reach and could apparently react to Iran's publication on Tuesday with a map showing 5 Tehran-controlled bases in Syria. Out of Debka, they continue with this similar story, how Iran heats war rhetoric to cover up military buildup in Syria. So Tehran is drumming up an ore war of attrition against Israel as a trick to deter the Israeli Defense Force from striking the military hardware and personnel flowing into Syria. Iran is pouring out violent threats in a rising crescendo against the Jewish state for 2 goals. One is to keep Israel off balance and frozen in a high defense posture in its northern borders, and secondly, to con Israel into fearing that any Israeli Defense Force action would tip over into an all-out conflict. So this stratagem allows Tehran to keep a continuous stream of hardware and personnel into Syria and Lebanon free of hindrance by Israel's air force and missiles, and so the anchor its military presence in both the Israelis' northern neighbors. The tension between Tehran and Jerusalem has been high since April 9th, when Israel knocked out a Revolutionary Guards Air Force commander center at the Syrian T4 airbase. But apart from blistering threats of retaliation, Iran has done nothing. Israel celebrated its Independence Day under clear skies, although the following day, on the Friday of April 20th, the Guards of Deputy Commander warned that Israel was on the trigger of its missiles and Israel's airbase within reach. So we're seeing more and more the rhetoric, the threats from Iran. Even this one that came out of the Times of Israel said that Iran's general warns that all of Israel's airbase within reach, no escape but the sea. So the threat continues from Iran. And the world is letting Iran continue to make these threats to build up its military within Iran, because their goal eventually, as Ezekiel 38 warns, is to come in to invade and to attack Israel. Russia and Turkey, they're all in alliance, coming together. And that's exactly what Ezekiel 38 talks about. And again, the ancient name, as we read, as Gog or Magog. Magog is Russia. Gog is probably a Russian leader. You have Persia, of course, Iran. You have Gomer and Beth Tagmar, which is Turkey. You have Libya, which is Libya, Ethiopia, Sudan. These are all part of within Ezekiel 38, the names and the countries that are listed that are hostile toward Israel. And while there's no specific or immediate threat to Israel besides words and rhetoric and threatening words, the alliance of these nations is certainly noteworthy. Again, there's a buildup. There will be an eventual attack, as Ezekiel 38:39 talks about. It will happen soon enough. We just don't know when it's going to happen. There still needs to be more of a buildup there. But the cool thing is how God gives us a detailed prophecy of what is going to take place and what has been taking place. We're seeing Ezekiel 38. We're seeing Psalm 83. We're seeing Isaiah 17. All these sort of prophecies coming to pass and being piece by piece. Even Zechariah 12 talking about the destruction of, or how Jerusalem is the cup of trembling. So we're seeing more and more these end times prophecy getting closer and closer to being fulfilled. Also, another article in dealing with Iran. Iran warns of unpleasant response if U.S. drops nuclear deal. So this came out of Reuters, out of Iran warned the United States on Thursday of an unpleasant consequence if Washington pulls out of the multinational nuclear deal, according to Iranian state TV reported. Iran has several options if the United States leaves the nuclear deal. Tehran's reaction to America's withdrawal of the deal will be unpleasant. So they're threatening the U.S. again. Again, that's the great Satan. Israel is the little Satan. But what are you going to do? Are you going to attack because it's just proving the point? Why would we want to go with a nuclear deal when you're just building up your nuclear program and nuclear weapons? And again, as we hear over and over, and from the bits and pieces that we know of the deal that we're aware of, it's a horrific deal. It's just giving them the nuclear capabilities, the funding to build it as well. And so this is something the U.S. and Israel have absolutely hated about this nuclear program. On to some other random interesting articles. These are dealing with the trends that we see within the end times. Not necessarily it's a prophetic aspect, but it's something that you're seeing that has potential prophetic implications. For example, this one came out of the Daily Mail that talks about how Bill Gates backs a $1 billion plan to cover Earth in a Big Brother satellites. So Microsoft, Bill Gates is backing up a startup that will provide a live, unfiltered, high-definition footage of every inch of the Earth. The startup, Now Earth, plans to be launched with 500 satellites to cover the Earth's atmosphere and a Big Brother real-time video surveillance. So the thing with this is something certainly some governments can want to partake of, to have the control, to have the monitoring of what everyone's doing. And this is something I wouldn't be surprised if this is taking place and will be launched, that the Antichrist can eventually tap into, so that way he can monitor and keep control of what's happening around the world. And so this is at least a step in that potential direction. Not saying that it is, but you're seeing a trend, a movement in that. And then lastly, this was a sad story, but it's something that you do see so common these days with schools and governments and the education system, and you see the decline there, but you see the, what's the word I'm thinking of? The indoctrination, that's it. So there's a article out of the Daily Caller talking about how California school district says parents can't pull kids out of the new LGBT sex ed classes. So a school district in California says the parent can't opt out of this new sex education courses that will deal with abortion, homosexuality, and transgender issues. Just because I mentioned that, I'm probably going to get some dislikes on this thing because some people do not want to hear the truth. Anyways, a California law passed called the California Health Youth Act in 2015 to promote healthy attitudes about gender and sexual orientation. The law is meant to teach students about the effectiveness and the safety of all FDA-approved contraceptive methods and to allow for objective discussion about parenting, adoption, and abortion. The law also gives parents the ability to opt out of this education and said that the pupil shall not be punished academically in any way if they don't participate. However, the Orange County Board of Education, Orange County is where I'm from originally, has decided that parents don't have the right to exclude their kids from class. LifeSite News reports a memo from the Orange County Department of Education General Counsel on March 29th stated that the opt-out provision does not apply to instructions, materials, programming that discuss gender, gender identity, gender expression, sexual orientation, discrimination, harassment, bullying, intimidation, relationships, or family, and does not discuss human reproductive organs. So what this is doing and what is done in so many countries as they're pushing this idea, this indoctrination of homosexuality, transgenderism, things like that, gender identity stuff, that they continue to push this confusion and immorality amongst this next generation just to accept it. You know, and basically people know that what they're doing is wrong. That's not how we're created. You're male or female or, you know, just biologically, medically, you know, we're not created for abuse. We're not created for same-sex, you know, relationships. That's not how our bodies were designed or created. And so what you do see with this particular system in place and education system is the destruction and the psychological damage that is being done. And what they're trying to do is free people up so that they continue on that destructive path. But what you're doing is causing more problems and more pain. The damage that this does, and they've been doing this for decades. And we're seeing as this agenda is getting pushed and pushed more and more destructive behavior, depression, suicidal, cutting, all these other things that this is pushing further and further in that direction because of this lifestyle, because of the confusion that this is creating. So it is sad that parents don't have the options to opt out of this sort of education system. It's something that shouldn't surprise us, but it's something that does sting a little bit, especially if you are a parent and your kids are in a public school system. I wouldn't be surprised if they hit some of the private schools as well, but usually there's more of a parental consent in those type of schools. But it is sad to see the society going in this direction. So we need to be praying for those that are struggling with those gender identity issues, homosexuality, the whole LGBTQI, and the rest of the alphabet issues continue. They need Jesus. Just like all people need Jesus, even if they're heterosexual and they struggle with sin. Every sinner needs the Savior, Jesus Christ. And so it's by grace we've been saved through faith in Jesus Christ. And so He's the one that can set us free. He's the one that can heal us. He's the one that can deliver us. So turn your hearts and your lives over to Jesus Christ, and He will give you the strength and the wisdom that you need. And may the Lord radically and outrageously bless you. Until next time, God bless.